Hello everyone, this is the 39th video of my database question series. In the previous video, we used some tools like Workbench and ADSQL browser to create databases, and we do many activities using those tools. But I'm going to start a new set of videos to explain about the relational algebras uh, used in databases. Uh, let's go to our first question. Here, this is the first question. Write a relational algebra query to find the details of the brand Puma product. Use brand ID as 4. Use the table where product details are stored as the product table. Okay, in this case, they are asking us to create a query to search some details like the brand should be Puma, and they gave us the brand ID as number 4, and those details are stored in uh, product table. But we are not going to use any tools here. Relational algebra is a method we use to symbolize these details in SQL, uh, like MySQL, we use select asterisk from product where, like that. We use some codes, but in this case we are going to use symbols and also some letters to express this idea. Let's see how we are going to do that. Here you can see they gave us to search some details, actually to filter some details. So we have to find all the details of the product where the uh, brand name is equal to Puma. So let's see how we are going to do that. There are some sections in relational algebra like selection, progression, and Cartesian product, like that. I'm not going to go through all those details. I'm going to show you the answer here. So like uh, MySQL queries, to show these details, we are going to use the selection. So let's see how we are going to do that. Here you can see this is the symbol we of the selection, and this is the mark of the selection, and in the uh, lower lower bracket we mention the condition, actually the filtering part, and in the relation we usually mention the table. That's how we express selection in relational algebra. And let's see how we are going to answer this question. Okay, in the question part, you can see we have a filtering part here. Brand ID should be equal to 4. So I'm going to replace this condition as brand ID should equal to 4. And also in the relation area, we have to mention what is the table we are going to filter. That's the product table. So product. Uh, Actually, if I show you my database, the database we create earlier in ADSQL browser, you can see in the brand table, brand Puma, the brand ID of the brand Puma is 4, and in the product table, okay, here in the product table, you can see this product is the brand ID of this product is 4, and this will be the answer. Okay. That's the answer for the first part of the question. Now let's move on to the second one. Okay, this is the second question. Write a relational algebra query to find the details of the gender male users among the registered users. To do this, use 1 as the gender ID. Use the gender table as a table to store the gender of registered users. Okay, here you can understand the question. There's a uh, separate table called gender, and uh, the gender ID of male users is equal to 4, and here in the HDSQL browser you can see in the uh, user table, that's the table we use to store the users details, but only the gender id is stored in this table as a foreign key. So uh, in this case, the condition, they directly gave us the gender id, so we don't have to search that id in gender table. We can directly call that, sorry, directly change this one as gender id should equal to 1, and the relation is the user table. Okay, and this is the answer for the second part of the question. Now let's move on to the third one. Okay, write the relational algebra query to find the details of the registered user, gender, male, user type, employees. Do this, use as the gender id, use 1 as user type id, use the table stored registered users as a user. Okay, in this case, we have to write a relational algebra with two filtering parts here. First one is the gender id should be equal to 1. That means the gender should, the users should be males, and user type is equal to 1. That means they all of them should be employees. So again we have to use the selection method to show these details, and let's see how to answer to that question. The condition, the first condition is the gender id should equal to 1. uh, in MySQL query method we use the keyword and uh, to join two filtering parts. In this case we can use that same keyword in this relational algebra. I'm going to use the keyword and. Then the second uh, condition, that's the user type id should equal to 1. Okay, and then the relationship, the table which contains the details of the user, like user's first name, last name, that's the user table. So the relation should be that table user. Okay, and this is the final answer. For the third question. Okay, now let's move on to the last one. Write a relational algebra query to find details about products whose brand is DSI and Bata. To this, use 1 as the ID of the DSI brand and 2 as the ID of the Bata brand. Use the product details stored uh, as the product table. Okay. Uh, there are two tables in this question. First one is the product table, which contains the details of the product, like product's name, like that. But there's a separate table to store the details of the brands of those products, like brand name and brand ID. But in this case, they directly gave us the brand ID. So we can use this selection method, and here the condition, should be the brand ID should equal to 1 and 2. And then the relation, the details are stored in the product table. So relation product table. And this is the final answer. And I think that's for this video. I'm going to continue this question series about the relational algebras in future videos. So let's see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching.